Okay, so we are following on from the last video where we did a recap on our GCSE trigonometry that you need to know to kind of move on to do your AS level. So what we're going to now is we're going to take our knowledge that we know that angles are in the, when we have the same angle in a triangle, that your ratios are in proportion, allows you to figure out what the sides of a triangle are when we're given certain other sides and we're given that it's a right angle. So if you didn't watch that first video, you need to watch that now. I'll put a link in the description to the first video where we learned that the right angle, the opposite to the right angle is our hypotenuse, and our adjacent to this angle that we're talking about, the 37, so we call it maybe our reference angle, the opposite is over here because it's opposite to that angle, and the adjacent is then over here. And then we learned about sine, cos, and tan. So sine is our opposite over our hypotenuse. So now we're going to see, okay, if we were to use our calculator, we could actually figure out the ratio of these sides. Okay. So what we're going to do is get out your calculator and put sine 37 into your calculator. And what do you get?
0.60.
0.60. Okay. So we get 0.6. So we can think of a number like 9 as being 9 over 1. So we could think of this as 0.6 over 1. Because there's a 1 at the bottom of any whole number, or even a number like this. So when we think of our sine, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we could think of our opposite angle as side, if it was, would be 0.6, and our hypotenuse would be 1. And so if this was a triangle with a hypotenuse of 1, then the angle opposite, the side opposite would be 0.6. But because we know that this is in proportion, we could also know that if the hypotenuse was 2, then the opposite would be 1.2. It would be 1.2, because you always have the same ratios. So this is just calculator work. So if you didn't get 0.6 in sine for sine 37, it means you don't have your calculator in degrees, in which case you need to say probably shift mode and put degrees on your calculator. If you're not sure, then check out your calculator manual to see how do I get my calculator into degrees. Or put a comment below, and I'm sure myself or someone else watching will help you. Cos 37, what do we do when we put that in?
We get 0.8.
So we get 0.8. So we could think of that as 0.8 over 1. And so we could then say, well, our adjacent, because it's opposite then over so it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So our hypotenuse at the bottom, and our opposite is our adjacent, which is the 0.8. No, adjacent. It should be our hypotenuse, yeah? And so we can write in 0.8. Okay, now what do we do if we put tan 37? What do we get?
We get 0.75.
0.75. Okay, now what do we know? What is our tan? Tan is tripping on acid, or SOHCAHTOA, so opposite over adjacent. So if we put our opposite as 0.6 and our adjacent as 0.8, what do we get when we put that in? What's 0.6 over 0.8? What do you get when you put that in your calculator? 0.75, right? 0.6 divided by 0.8, do you get 0.75? Yes, you do. Put it in. Okay, I'm just going to move on. You get 0.75. So 0.6 over 0.8, you get 0.75. So you can see that it works. So your tan does indeed tell you the ratio of your sides. Now, what do you get when you put sine 53 into your calculator? Your microphone is off. Your microphone's off. Okay, I'm just going to move on. So when you get sine 53 in your calculator, I'm not sure what's going on with your mic there, but when we put sine 53, we're going to get 0.8. And when we put cos 53 in, we're going to get 0.6. And we put tan 53, we're going to get 8 over 6, which is 1, and 2 over 6, which is, we're going to get 1.33. Now, what we notice is that 53 just so happens to be this angle here, 53. And so 90 is plus 53 and 37 gives you 90. So angles in a triangle add up to 180. And so you're going to get 180. And so sine 53 will give you 0.8 because it'll be the, do you see that now when we talk about the 53, do you see that the 53, the opposite is actually the 0.8. So this becomes the opposite. And so our opposite to the 53 is the 0.8. And so it's 0.8 over 1. So if we have the cos 53, adjacent to the cos is the thing that was opposite to the 37. And so your adjacent is now 0.6, which is what you had. So do you see that there's a relationship between 37 and 53 because they add up to 90? So if, in other words, if I had sine 30, that would be the same as cos 60. And tan 53 is now, because it's just switched these angles around, it then happens to be the 0.6 over 0.8. Okay, so that last bit was a little bit confusing, but what we can see there is we end up with these two being reciprocal. Okay, so not vital, we'll go over that again, but there's a relationship in this triangle between the two angles and that they add up to 90 because this one is 90 and we know that triangles in a sum of angles in a triangle is equal to 180. Okay, so we will continue now. We've done the angle. We'll learn how to figure out the angle now if you are given the sides, and we'll do that in the next video. So if you want to get more information on your GCSEs and your AS level maths, then just click the subscribe button so that you get the upcoming videos.